The genesis of this program came from a feeling that defamation, having been a much undervalued remedy in past 20-odd years for a number of reasons, had seen something of a change. Plaintiffs obviously have a concern that if they were to file a defamation suit, that they would merely be drawing attention to whatever the offensive language or incidents are. And then on top of that, if they get it wrong, they are going to be faced with paying not only their fees, but their opponent's fees if their opponent wins an anti-SLAPP motion. So on that basis, it has appeared to be something of a disfavored tort. But in the last few years, I've certainly been reading an increasing number of cases in this area, and this is why we've entitled this program The New Wave of Defamation Cases. And I thought we would start from looking at the view from 40,000 feet and starting with Bobby, saying, Bobby, do you see a new wave of defamation cases? Do you see a higher incidence of them? And if you do, what do you think are the sort of general reasons behind it?
I definitely do see a wave. We can all debate the height of the wave at its crest, but we're seeing a lot of cases, and I think it's attributable to a number of factors that may have nothing to do with each other, but they're all combining, and in no particular order. Let me if I can try and organize this in my mind a little meaningfully. But a lot of the conventional wisdom about filing a defamation claim has changed because of the world we live in and the changes that have occurred. The hesitancy of a plaintiff to expose oneself to a searching analysis of your character and your background has been an impediment in many, many situations over the years, much less so now. We live in an environment, at least in the United States, where people are generally more forgiving of bad acts. Kim Kardashian is an extraordinarily wealthy woman, but her claim to fame that she built was participating in a sex tape. And the release of that sex tape made her famous. And then she has very cleverly and thoughtfully built on that with all kinds of business enterprises. People just aren't as concerned about somebody digging up some dirt on them as an impediment to a defamation claim. That's one contributing factor. Two, there's so much more communication taking place now with social media. And that is causing people to relax the restraints that might apply were they thinking they were talking on 60 Minutes or somewhere else and being more guarded about what they say. So you have people who just, there's no filter and it's an immediate response to a text or a social media post or something else, and they're saying what's on their mind. And so some of them are saying things that the subject of those comments finds defamatory. Another factor is the class of very successful entrepreneurs in the technology and related industries who think they are immortal and that the ordinary rules don't apply to them, and so they want to speak what's on their mind and they don't really think through the consequences, or they don't have matured general counsels that filter what they say, or they do, but they say what they want to say anyway. And so those are some of the factors. The other, which we'll get into I think a little bit more, is the view of defamation as a substitute for something else that's not otherwise available, that becomes a more attractive candidate. And that the response to a lot of the Me Too dialogue demonstrates that, where somebody is a victim, they come forward, the perpetrator responds, the underlying battery or assault took place so long ago that there's no effective legal means unless it's potentially a criminal where the statutes have been extended. And the alleged perpetrator denies having done something. Well, maybe that's defamatory because it's false, and you take it from there. So that becomes a whole other silo of potential defamation claims. And so I think you put all this stuff together, the fact that people realize they can go engage in libel tourism and go to places where file in jurisdictions where there isn't a robust anti-SLAPP response to be had, people are more willing to do things. Now, it used to be people would engage in libel tourism to the UK. US courts have started, and Congress have started thinking more about that. But anyway, I think you put all those factors together, and that's why you're seeing a lot of defamation. I know, before I turn it over to Charles, a lot of my time is counseling clients who say, somebody's writing a book about our company. Really unhappy about this. What should we be thinking and doing? And Charles and I were kind of kidding about something I'm working on now, where it involves foreign governments and government officials, and they're thinking about these things, and everybody wants to talk about this and understand what rights they have under libel law to protect their reputations, or to just fight against attacks in social media and general media.
Yeah, I agree with what Bobby said. But just to kind of take that a step further, I think a lot of the defamation cases are coming about because of the changing nature of news. That news used to be a newspaper and the next day it was gone. A magazine would come out, the next week it was gone. A person can handle something horrible about them for maybe a day or a week. They could kind of calm down a little bit and then move on. But nowadays, you have these Google search results where one thing, which could be obscure, it could be from some obscure blogger, could be the number one search result, and it stays there for a long, long time unless you go to one of these SEO companies to try to monkey with all the numbers to try to get it down and hide it, so to speak, where it's on the second page, which isn't all that hidden. And there's also, I feel like there's a lot of news that wasn't around because it's just so easy to be a news person. Any of us can be a news person. You've got Medium, if it's still around, where you can write your own news stories and post them. You can create your own blogs and boom, you're a news person. Facebook, to some extent, can be disseminating news. And if in any of those instances there's something that is negative, that is about somebody, that person's probably going to find out about it, either immediately or eventually, and they're probably not going to be happy about it. And then it's a matter of how unhappy are they, and is this something that's actually legally actionable, or is it opinion or some other type of speech that falls into a defense? So with this explosion of speech, explosion of media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all the different news outlets, and all the people who are blogging, and all the people who are influencers, to the extent that they say negative things. And a lot of it is, once you have this sort of rising level, this volume of speech, people want to rise above and be noticed. They don't want to just sort of disappear into the noise. They want to rise above. And one way that people rise above, and this has been going on for hundreds of years, is by being more controversial, or kind of hard-hitting, so to speak. And sometimes when people do that, they get careless. And if it's a public figure and they cross the line into being reckless and engage in actual malice, that's when you can have a lawsuit from a public figure. And if it's a private figure, all you need is negligence to be a plaintiff, and you can seek to hold them responsible. So, and then amongst all of this, you have laws being passed to try to regulate some of this. So you'll have Section 230 of the CDA, which I think we're going to touch upon, and you'll have anti-SLAPP measures, which are being passed all over the country, but not all over the country, because still lots of states don't have them at all, and some are strong and some are weak, depending if you're a plaintiff or a defendant, how you view it. And then sometimes they apply in federal court, and sometimes they don't apply in federal court. So there's a whole body of law now being created, and so it gets really complicated. And then a lot of times people say, well, can't Congress just pass a law that regulates all this stuff? Well, the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law. So you have states who are doing it, and you have the Supreme Court who's doing it, and then if Congress can act, they have to be very, very careful about it. So Bobby and I were sharing that we get very busy when, all these things come out. And it's interesting also, I get emails and phone calls all the time. People who, are not famous, not wealthy, lots of those. And then sometimes people who are extremely wealthy, and a president of a country was reaching out about a defamation. I mean, it's not the United States, a different country. So it's just a fascinating time.
Can I add one thing to what you were saying? The permanence or assumed permanence of the internet is a game changer. There is a cottage industry of media consultants who then turn to other sort of subcontractors in search engine results optimization to deal with negative stories. And but there's this cottage industry of people who will testify in defamation cases on damages, and the focus of their damage, or at least a module or several modules, will be repair reputation geared towards search engine results. And it's as if the whole world revolves around Google and what you see on a Google page, and an individual's reputation is evaluated in the fraction of a second that any of us spend looking at that first page. And let's be honest, how often do you really get past the first page? What you see about a person, and in one of the cases we'll talk about, one of the experts had turned to a company that has an algorithm, and you give them whatever the basics are of the person, and they will spit back in any jurisdiction at any point in time the Google search results, and red, green, yellow, I think, tag each article as to whether it's favorable about the person, unfavorable, or neutral. That's sort of an ingredient in the defamation expert's trial testimony about what the damages are for the reputation or the repair of the reputation. None of this existed 20 years ago. There was no need for any of this. Yeah. And when you add on layers of social media, I mean, and look at Instagram results or Twitter, it's mind-boggling how one little statement can supposedly trigger the need to spend extraordinary amounts of money to clean up a reputation.
Yeah. Just one other thing, and I know that we're talking about defamation, but I think never has it been easier, and this is a sad state, I think, for society, never has it been easier for an individual to destroy another individual. I'm talking about their reputation, I'm talking about their career. It can be really, really easy to do. And I see it happening all the time and I get phone calls and emails about it all the time, where somebody is pretending to be somebody else and wants to take down a company that they used to work for, or wants to take down an individual that they don't agree with. And with all the social media and with Section 230, you can go on Yelp, or you can go on a variety of different websites, and you can post things. You can go on Wikipedia and you could post things pretending to be somebody and saying all kinds of things, which maybe they're defamatory and maybe they're just really, really disparaging an opinion but not defamatory. And if that ends up as a primary search result, or if somebody pays an ad to have that be the sponsored post and it's like $5 per click, it's not expensive, then suddenly that becomes what people look at when they're Googling you, or they're Googling us, or they're Googling a company. And that just, it's just mind-bending how complicated things are getting, and how it's almost like when a virus comes out and everyone's scrambling to solve the virus. This is sort of topical, but there are all these sort of technological viruses out there that allow, I call them ne'er-do-wells, people who don't have good intentions and want to wreak havoc on somebody's life or a company's life. And then there's all these ways of dealing with it, whether it's SEO or defamation law or what have you, or just responding, this person was never my customer, I don't know who they are, and sometimes you'll see these responses. Or anyway, it's.
Let me ask you guys this though.
We'll never get off of topic one.
Yeah, right.
I just want to make one prediction, if I could, real
course.
quickly. I think we're going to see a new wave of. It's a flavor of this where the claim is not for defamation, it's for breach of a non-disparagement clause, because more and more companies are dealing with problems, especially in entrepreneurs, where you have founder disputes or co-founder disputes, and they'll buy out the one who's perceived to have more capital or clout will buy out the other one when they've had a disagreement, but they'll put a non-disparagement provision in the separation agreement or whatever it's called. And I sense that we're just going to see a lot of people forgetting about those and spouting off. And then it's not a question of negligence, and it's a claim for breach of contract. Anyway.